raising consciousness and awakening mankind. This is End of Days Radio. Hello and welcome to End of Days Radio. I am your host, Daniel, and I am broadcasting from Seattle, Washington, here in the heart of the Pacific Northwest. Welcome to End of Days Radio, everybody. Tonight, we have a very special guest. They're all special, but I'm really excited because we're going to be talking a little cryptozoology. Oh, and by the way, I apologize for those of you that were on the live stream listening. I've actually been broadcasting for the past 15 minutes, and I did not realize that my mute button was on, so I've been talking to the air, thinking that I was on air. So I do apologize, but let's get back on track, shall we? Tonight's guest is Peter von Puttkamer. He's been writing, directing, and producing international award-winning films in the United States and Canada over the last 24 years. His company, Griffin Productions, has created documentaries for the Learning Channel, Animal Planet, Discovery Channel, and other specialty channels. Peter has climbed through ancient caves used for human sacrifice in Mexico, filmed, then eaten giant 12-inch tarantulas with Venezuelan blowgun hunters, filmed sacred mass rituals and dances of North American natives, chased caribou herds on the Arctic Circle, and joined a hunt for Bigfoot. His recent film series for Discovery Channel, such as Sasquatch Odyssey and Monster Hunters, have dealt with the strange world of cryptozoology. Boy, that was a mouthful. I will go ahead and dial him up right now because we are running a little late as usual. And we are dialing. Hello.
Hi, it's Peter.
Hi, Peter. Thank you for joining me here tonight on End of Days Radio. How is your day going?
Great. Having a good day, staying busy.
Excellent. And one thing I really like to do when I start off is just turn back the clock a little bit just to get a little bit of a better idea of who you are. So if you wouldn't mind, could you just tell us a little bit about where you came from, like where you grew up and what it was like?
Sure. I'm basically... my parents immigrated to Canada from Germany back in the late 50s, and I was like a kid. And I guess early 60s, I guess. And so basically I grew up in kind of a interesting environment where we were out in the country with horses and a resort where my dad was hiring a lot of Native people, First Nations people, which is my first introduction to kind of these, mythological stories and legends about wild men and wild women in the woods. And this is in the Pacific Northwest, north of Vancouver. And so I was quite impressed from an early age. I got this kind of education of working with Indians and seeing them do their dances and perform their cultural ceremonies. And my father was made an honorary chief, and he was given this talking stick, which is an honor for a man to, a chief to stand at potlatches and be a speaker and, be a leader. So that all made an impact on me. And later, after I went to film school at the University of British Columbia, I got work one summer working with the federal government in Canada, and that sent me off into Native communities. And I spent several years producing films with, for, and about them, winning the American Indian Film Festival in San Francisco several times, and partnering with Native filmmakers, and just watching all these amazing masks and ceremonies and things that eventually brought me to Bigfoot.
Oh, okay. So your situation is kind of unique where you actually had a real up-and-close personal experience with the native peoples in the Pacific Northwest, and I suppose maybe you might have heard some of their Bigfoot legends or something like that?
Yeah, well, they have these characters, like depending on the tribe, right? They all have different names. But if you just take one tribe, the quaggial. They have a much longer name now that would be confusing for people, but they're known sort of traditionally as the quaggial. Then they have these ceremonies called potlatches, and in those ceremonies they have these figures called Wild Man of the Woods and Wild Woman of the Woods, and they appear as these kind of hair-covered monsters with masks, and they do specific things in the ceremonies that relate to the legends about them.
Now, what? I'm sorry, I actually listened to a very good interview you did last night actually, and it's got to be one of my top 10 Art Bell interviews of all time. And I must say, that was a really good interview. I know you've probably been on this show several times, but that's definitely one of the best Art Bell interviews I've ever heard.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say. That must have been quite a few years ago.
Yeah, I actually caught it on YouTube. I don't know if it's on there legally or not, but it was nice being able to listen to that. And,
Sure.
yeah. One thing I really like about Bigfoot is I actually grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and I still live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm here in Seattle. Is this really a big area for Sasquatch?
Yeah, it's sort of it's the place where it all started, right? This town called Harrison Hot Springs, north of Vancouver. That's where there's a tribe of native people called the Chehalis, and that's their word. It's Sasquatch. It's a very similar spelt word. It means big and strong in their language. And this newspaper guy in the 1920s kind of coined the term. He took the Chehalis word and he added his little flourish and ended up with Sasquatch. So that was in like the late 50s is when the BC government, the province of British Columbia, actually had they offered a prize for people to come in and spot Bigfoot, Sasquatch. It wasn't even known then. If you think of the late 50s, there was no idea about this thing at all yet. There's no Patterson film. There's nothing in Northern California. So in my film, Sasquatch Odyssey, The Hunt for Bigfoot, we meet some of those original guys, those old men when I interviewed them in their 70s that had been there from the beginning, and they were hunting the Yeti in Tibet, and they were coming from Alberta, Canada, to find out if there was a Yeti in British Columbia, because the BC government was offering a reward to find it.
In your opinion, what would you say is the best evidence that we have for Bigfoot? Would it be the Native American stories and the fact that they all seem to have a correlating view of Bigfoot, or would you say it's something else?
Well, there's really two things, right? There's like you say, centuries of native, not just stories, but depictions, in their dances and songs and stories of the creature. And then you've got the modern day eyewitness stuff that's going on all over the place in like 30 states. It's not just the Northwest. And in this series, Killing Bigfoot, that we've been doing for Destination America, that was interesting to me because I'd never been in a place where so many people are having creature sightings, and it's like that Stranger Things on Netflix. It's like there's a monster in the woods. People are terrified, and our group of hunters, the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization, they come in to protect the public, find out what's going on, and if they can, harvest a specimen. They want to take one down so that they can prove it's real, and science will stop all the back and forth, and people won't be getting made fun of anymore because they might prove that there is a Bigfoot.
And it's my understanding that you're vehemently opposed to this happening.
Me, personally? Hey, I'm the neutral filmmaker. I'm going in to tell a story about this group of people that want to shoot one. And I'm also filming the people who don't want to shoot one. And it's a pretty unique situation in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and we're talking about taking a single specimen. That's pretty much what science does with a lot of unknown species, so they can test them and prove that they actually are something new. And then there's a group headed by a neuropsychologist, Dr. Webb Sintel, and he definitely doesn't want to see one shot because he says this is a human-like creature. It's not ape-like, and so if you kill even one, it'll be murder. So I was interested as a filmmaker to see what this conflict was all about and how there's so many people scared out of their minds that this thing is beating against the walls of their house, screaming, hollering, smashing light bulbs 12 feet off the ground, killing dogs, pets, farm animals. It's a pretty weird phenomenon.
So Bigfoot has actually killed a few people's dogs.
Yes, in this, according to the people we've talked to, yes.
Oh, that's a little bit unsettling because, well, I've heard of Bigfoot throwing rocks and things at people, but I've never heard of him killing anybody. That does lend a little bit of an argument to the people that want to, put a cap in him, so to speak.
Well, if you go back to, there's a Mount St. Helens story from the 20s, I believe, where a bunch of hunters were up in a cabin, and there was basically a siege where they were Bigfoot hurling huge boulders and smashing into the walls of the cabin, and these hunters were firing back at them. And that was reported in the local paper back in the day. But typically, yeah, I mean, people in the Pacific Northwest is pretty much a Harry and the Hendersons kind of feel about the creature, that it's not harmful in any way. But what the GCBRO is saying in our show, in Killing Bigfoot, is they're saying, look, this is another type of creature down here. It's like a different species, basically. It's a creature that's sleeker, it's faster, and it can drop to all fours and run through the bush at 20 to 30 miles an hour. It's like a game-changing critter.
Okay, so Bigfoot, he'll actually get down on all fours like a silverback gorilla.
That's what the GCBRO claims, and because what they're seeing are these trails, and skeptics would say, well, aren't they just hog trails or deer trails? But they're reporting. People have reported seeing these, and even one of our hunters reported seeing a Bigfoot catch a deer that way on all fours and take it out.
Yeah, that's interesting because you would think if Bigfoot is more of a human type of creature that he wouldn't show characteristics of a gorilla. That makes me think that maybe he's a gorilla.
Well, the thing is, he walks on two legs, but when he needs to attack or run at speed to get away, he drops to all fours. And gorillas pretty much spend most of their time on four legs, and when they need to reach up for something or when they're displaying and pounding their chest, they briefly stand on their hind legs, but they usually don't walk around a lot on their hind legs.
A moment ago, you brought up that movie Harry and the Hendersons. That's a really big one for me. That was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. And
it's a great show.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you, how do you feel about that movie? Do you feel it did a pretty good job of? I know at least the special effects were good, but did you like the fact that Bigfoot was kind of a nicer type of Bigfoot?
Well, you know what? It's a fun movie. It's a fun kids movie. It actually addresses some of the things about Bigfoot being like a monster, and the John Lithgow character really, he's fighting hard against that, right? He's trying to let people know that it's this really friendly creature. And it's like the Bigfoot. I mean, we don't really know a lot about them, if they do exist. But certainly, based on what the hunters are saying, like if you think about an animal like a tiger, right? And if you go to Siberia, you've got a massive, basically prehistoric sized tiger that's very heavily boned and muscular and much bigger than the Indian variety. So if you go into because this creature in the deep snow has to be massive and very tough to survive in those cold conditions. But if you go to the south, smaller boned animal, this Bengal tiger, is not as massive as a Siberian tiger. So what they're saying, and what GCBRO believes, is that these are just, because of climate, because of adaptation, they're, a different kind of Bigfoot.
Yeah, that does kind of strike a chord because I'm thinking of bears a little bit. It seems like the further you go north, that the bears are bigger. You start running into polar bears and Kodiak bears and stuff like that.
Yep.
Maybe it helps them stay warm or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, you know, wolves is the same thing. Timber wolves are massive, but you go see a gray wolf or red wolf, those wolves in Texas and that, they're very small. They're like a coyote-sized creature.
And when you mentioned the Bigfoot walking on all fours, it brought another thought to mind. I was going to ask you about this, but there's a creature that they were attributing to possibly being Bigfoot called the Gigantopithecus, and he was a little bit more like a gorilla. So,
Yeah,
in your opinion, could it be a Gigantopithecus?
the Gigantopithecus, yeah. It's, I'll tell you why a lot of the more scientific researchers point to that as proof that a Bigfoot could exist, because they've found the bones from about 300,000 years ago. This gorilla was massive. So a modern day gorilla, and I filmed mountain gorillas, by the way, in Uganda 2.5 years ago. We were filming them really close up a mountain. And so those animals, at best, they get a little over 6 feet and maybe, 350, 450, 500 pounds and such. But a Gigantopithecus is 12 feet tall and probably over 1,000 pounds. So
That's a big creature.
yeah, and that would fit with the very largest sightings of Bigfoot. Something that's over 12 feet. That's a big polar bear will stand 12 feet tall.
I do recall years ago, I'm not sure of the specifics, but I'm pretty sure that somebody might have found some Bigfoot fur and tested it. Do you know anything about that?
I do. It's well, I'll mention two things. There's always people saying, well, can't you, as far as GCBRO goes, why can't they get DNA and why can't they tranquilize it and all this kind of stuff, right? And the problem is the fur stuff has always been inconclusive, and the DNA, and we collected some in the Killing Bigfoot show, it's always contaminated by whoever collected it because they're not a CSI team, right? But I
Yeah.
think what you might be referring to is just like a couple of years ago, a bunch of samples went to an Oxford scientist named Dr. Brian Sykes, and he got 30 or 40 samples of supposed Bigfoot and Yeti hair, and they were testing all of them, and he said, most of them were like usual suspects: deer, dogs, cows, horses, and one sample he attributed to a extinct Norwegian polar bear from 40,000 years ago. And so a lot of people then said, oh, well, then that explains, like the Yeti, that's what this hair was from that region. Maybe what people are seeing is a unknown type of bear, and that was quite intriguing, and it made world news. And then, unfortunately, a couple of scientists came in and said, wait a minute, the way you tested this and the way you did your DNA work, it's not really correct, and we believe all you've done is identify a bear species that's already there that we know about. And so he kind of backed off on that, and he said, look, what we really need to prove Yeti or Bigfoot is a body or a piece of body. And, of course, that's what our hunters, the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization, that's what they're saying.
I've also, well, this is something that seems to pop up in just about every Bigfoot encounter that I've heard about, but I've heard he has a very, very strong smell to the point where in some regions, Bigfoot is actually called the skunk ape. It's so bad that it almost resembles a skunk.
Yeah, you're right. That's the skunk ape is especially in Florida. That's where that sort of came from. But you're right. I've heard it described to me. One of the best sighting reports I ever heard was a guy we interviewed for Sasquatch Odyssey. That was that documentary. It's a bit of a classic now about all the old-time hunters. And in that, we interviewed a state trooper from Oregon, and he was driving near Mount Hood, and we were there, and it's, looks primeval there. That mountain's like 10,000 feet high, and, there's like a creek that kind of, you see the forest around Mount Hood, and then this kind of creek that creeps down the valley and across the plains, and that's where he was driving, and he saw something down the embankment down by the creek bed. And, a creature wanting to find food, look for fish and crawfish, they would follow the creek bed down from that forest. So it makes sense in a way what he was describing. And he thought it was a man at first, but then it crawled up the bank in like 3 steps. It would have taken a man like scrambling on all fours like quite some time. But this thing just strode up the bank. And then he got hit by that smell. He described the smell, that stench, and it looked right at him. He described the face, and then it walked across the road, crossed the fence, and disappeared. And this is a guy who spent a lifetime as a fish and wildlife officer, as a state trooper, and there was no reason for him to lie or make things up.
Yeah, that's always really interesting to me because you would think an animal walking around in the forest wouldn't want a strong smell like that. But then again, Bigfoot's probably the king of the jungle or the king of the forest. I can't imagine anything being able to, eat a Bigfoot, maybe a bear or something like that. But he's kind of like a white shark. There's no animal that's bigger than him.
It might be kind of a defense thing,
Uh-huh.
where it sends out that stench to kind of warn other animals that he's here.
What?
And
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and so yeah, so that could be it. It's not activated all the time, just when he gets stressed.
That does beg another question. Do you have any idea what Bigfoot might eat, like maybe fish or berries?
Well, that's what the people that have the passive accounts of Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, they would certainly say something like that he eats berries and, much like bears or omnivores, they eat pretty much anything. There's the native Indian legends and stories that I've heard personally describe, one of the versions of the name means fish stealer, and that he's known for grabbing salmon drying on racks that the native people have prepared, like right out of the camp, and he steals them away. But if you're talking about this Bigfoot in our series, Killing Bigfoot, that we're doing on Destination America, that one is, they believe they can easily hunt deer, and as I said, one of the hunters described seeing one on all fours take a deer out. And they would eat deer, they would eat hogs, and because they can run on all fours, they have no trouble tracking these down. And we had an incident in the show where it was full on, and we were running through the woods with cameras, running after these guys. And they normally stay in position. They're very, very safety conscious with their guns, but at this point, 2 of them saw eye shine, and they took off. And Jim Lansdale, the main guy, said he believed that Bigfoot was rounding up deer, that 2 of them were hunting. and they round up the deer and hunt them together.
Who are these guys? Why do they? Are they hunters? What sort of background do they have?
Pretty interesting background. They're like the dream team of Bigfoot hunters. A lot of people just look at it, they go, oh, a bunch of dumb hillbillies or whatever, right? And then you start to look at their backgrounds. So Bobby Hamilton's tech specialist guy with a major corporation. Jim Lansdale spent years in, managing companies all across different states. Don is a ex-National Guard, a fifth-degree Taekwondo master black belt, a land surveyor with his own company, a couple of degrees and his own, like 30, 40 people under him. We've got an IT specialist from a major university, surveillance. We've got mountain rescue, ex-law enforcement, coroners, body removal specialist, prison guards. It's a mix of people. And Jake, Jim's son, just got his MBA, his master's in business, and he was minoring in geology before then. So these guys are pretty sharp.
They must have individually, they must have a really strong belief that this creature actually exists for them to spend so much of their time and energy going through the forest and actually searching him out.
Well, it's a fascinating story because the way the GCBRO got founded, and they're one of the two oldest Bigfoot research groups in the country, is that Bobby Hamilton had an encounter when he was 8 years old with one coming to the window at his rural home on a farm, and it scared the crap out of him, and he always kind of in his heart wanted to prove that this monster was real. So it's like he spent a lifetime searching for the monster and proving it's real. And he and the others answer the call in each of their regions. That's what we show in the series, Mississippi or Texas or Louisiana. They get calls, and the key guys go in, whether it's Don or Bobby or Jim, and they respond and they check out to see, if it's viable, if it's a story, if they buy it, or it's some guy completely hoaxing or completely making it up. And in our series, despite what people think, we base everything on these real encounters, these real things that the GCBRO had happened to them or is happening to them. And also, these are current eyewitnesses, people who are very afraid about something large on their property, stalking them, terrorizing them, taking their animals.
I remember another thing that happened probably about 4 years ago where somebody claimed to have found a Bigfoot body, and unfortunately it turned out to be a costume with some hamburger meat thrown on top of it or something like that. Do you remember that?
Yeah. This guy was named Rick Dyer. And the GCBRO didn't have a lot of time for him. They thought it was a hoax from the start because he's done that before, from what I can tell on the internet. It was proven to be a hoax. It was well reported in the papers as such. And it was a suit, basically. And, there's precedence for this before other things have been hoaxed.
So these guys can probably spot a hoaxer pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're open. They're definitely open to that, and they really feel committed to helping these people. These big guys, they start tearing up when you talk to them about helping people. They're very sincere about it, and people were quick to jump on these guys either as murderers, as fakers, as whatever. But, whether we're down there with our cameras making this TV show or not, they're doing this every week. They're out answering the call. And we didn't have to make that up.
Now, earlier you mentioned somebody saw some eyes, which prompted a big rushing through the woods. Have they come close any other time?
Yes. Yeah, Jim Lansdale says that they shot one 10 years ago and got some blood samples and tested it that showed it was ape-like. And on the no-kill side, there's Melba Ketchum and Dr. Webb Sintel and their group, and they believe they have many samples that prove that it's human-like. And so they've been taking this to the scientific community and trying to get it verified, but so far nobody's officially, given the thumbs up to their samples. But they feel that they have enough evidence to show that it's human-like. But what really has to happen is someone from, like a magazine like Nature, one of the big scientific journals, has to put their stamp of approval on any evidence.
Now, I've come across a lot of theories doing this show and researching, and one thing that happens if somebody finds some bones that are too big or one of these skeletons of so-called giants, I've heard that the Smithsonian or other parties come in and basically destroy the evidence. And my question to you, Peter, is it possible that there is some kind of cover-up around this Bigfoot thing? Do you think possibly the Illuminati or some party out there wants to cover this up to hide humanity's true origins?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I think that one of the reasons I've been so interested in this subject of Bigfoot is that people are very passionate about the subject, that it could indeed point to our origins in some way. And it says, even more than the UFO phenomenon, people get very passionate about Bigfoot and its existence because it really says something about who we are and who we might be, right? So, yeah, I've heard stories going back to Mount St. Helens exploding in, the mid-'80s, and basically that people cited the Forest Services with helicopters and these nets carting animals off, and there were like gorilla hens hanging out of the nets. That's one of the stories I heard when we were doing the show. And there's always a feeling, I think, that the government could be covering things up. We were in England. I did a series called Monster Hunters back in 2000, 2001. It was one of the first, well, it was the first cryptozoology series with actual hunters out there, cryptozoologists. And we were in England, and they have a phenomenon called alien big cats there, where people are seeing panthers, leopards, pumas, whatever, large cats on the loose in the British countryside. Now, we talked to the SPCA, we talked to constables, and they'd all seen it. A zookeeper who kept cougars in pens said he saw a cougar out in a field in England. So all these experts are saying these things are out there, and yet none of them show up dead on the highway, and not one of them has really clearly attacked a person. So what the heck is going on? And one of the theories was that the government was driving up in trucks, finding these dead giant cats on the road, and moving them into, white vans and driving them off, like the X-Files. And so, because how could you explain how all these experts are saying, yes, there are big cats, and these are creatures we know exist for sure, because we know big cats, where they come from all around the world. So then there was a theory about that. So I think sometimes people are looking for reasons when you have a mystery animal, and what better explanation than it's a cover-up?
Yeah, it does make sense, though, to me at least, because, like I told you earlier, I live right here in the Pacific Northwest, and supposedly we have mountain lions and cougars around here, but I've never seen one lying in the road. I've never seen one, period, but I know they must be around here somewhere.
Yeah, it's just like wolverines, too, right? I've done shows on wolverines, and the only reason we saw one is because we were driving in the backcountry in heavy snow on snowmobiles, and they were setting up little cages to capture them, and they only go into these little wooden log houses. They won't go near anything metal. And If you don't get to it within 6 or 7 hours, they dig a hole right through an 8-inch log. So if you see a wolverine or a cougar in a nature documentary, 99% it's going to be shot on a game farm somewhere, because you never see those animals, those sole surviving animals that are out on their own in the forest. You'll never see it, and you certainly can't do a film study of it.
Now that show Monster Hunters was really amazing. I remember one episode. Of course, there wasn't a whole lot of footage or evidence found, but I remember one in particular. It was the one where they were looking for the giant Humboldt squid, and I was blown away. They actually caught something. Have you seen that one?
The Humboldt squid was caught for sure. The Humboldt squid are the ones down in the Baja. They're like 6 feet long. They're like ocean-going panthers, and they're very aggressive, and the fishermen fear them more than sharks. So if they're catching these things and bringing them to the surface, and a fisherman happens to fall in, all the others will come in and take him to the bottom. And then recently they got footage of the giant squid, of course. That was the big, elusive one, but, they got one stuck on a hook, like a few 100 feet down.
Is Monster Hunter still on, or have they halted production?
No, that's not running. At least our show, Monster Hunters, isn't running anymore. So, but there's Monster Quest, and that was done in the mid-2000s after our series aired.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's too bad, because those shows are just so fascinating.
Yeah, it's like, they've kind of moved into a different style of production now as well. And you've got to have strong characters and dramatic things happening, and people aren't willing to sit through informative documentaries as much as they used to be.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, going back to Bigfoot, has anybody ever found any Bigfoot poop, any fecal matter or droppings?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that, but nothing conclusive.
And in regards to you, Peter, what was it that made you decide that you wanted to become a filmmaker?
Well, I think from an early age, I was into photography. When I was in high school, we had a course in filmmaking. Actually, we were shooting with these Super 8 cameras, and we were doing like animation and claymation and all this sort of thing. So I always had a really visual eye. Like I probably could have just been a photographer, but it became evident really early on that it's much harder to make a living as a photographer than a filmmaker. As a filmmaker, you're really in charge of your destiny. You have a creative vision, and if you've got some business sense, and you have to have that, you can go after it, and you can raise the funds, and you can pay people to make you to do these shows. So, but the first part of my career, I was working a lot with Native Indians, and I was producing and directing a lot of shows that really helped those communities with their social and cultural and health issues. And it's because I gained that trust that we then were able to film really, intense, supernatural ceremonies and heavy-duty stuff that they gave me access to because they trusted me as a filmmaker.
Okay, so you mean the native peoples themselves, they had a little bit more of a
Yep.
trust in you. Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like, I've been in Pacific Northwest potlatches where a news crew shows up out of the blue and just starts filming at, like, a cultural event where there's 400 people and a fire and massive masks and naming ceremonies going on and 30 elders on a drum and feathers and eagle down floating in the air. So it's like this magical presentation that's happening, and then like a news crew shows up unannounced and just starts shooting, and the chiefs come up to them. They go, okay, so yeah, we'd like to invite you guys to feast with us and enjoy our food here, and just feel free to stick around. They said, thank you very much. They said, great, now give us the tapes in your camera. They hand over the tapes. the the chiefs throw the tapes into the fire. Says, feel free to be our guests now and stick around. So you can't show up unannounced and do stuff like that. You've got to have the trust and the permission, and the you've got to have the go-ahead from the hereditary chiefs to be able to access their culture and show certain things.
Yeah, those people, I think they've been pushed around enough over the years.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, the government banned their songs, masks, and dances all across. Both the U.S. and Canadian government put a ban on Indian dancing, and even they imprisoned some Native people for holding a potlatch ceremony in the 1920s. And in other places, similar things were happening. And one of the reasons today you see powwow dances, typically what people see of Native ceremonies is this, sort of Southwest, the eagle, the feathers and the dancing, and everyone has like a number on their back, right? Like it's a competition. And one of the reasons that happened is because they were getting, ostracized. They were being forbidden from performing their traditional dances. But as soon as they made it like a contest, then the white people went, oh, okay, it's a contest. Oh, that's all right.
That's something they can understand.
Yeah.
Were there any particular films, like documentaries or movies, that inspired you when you were younger that kind of made you want to get into this?
For sure. I don't know about when I was like really, really young, because I started making films when I was 13, 14, 15. But as far as something like Sasquatch Odyssey, what really inspired me was a filmmaker. His name's Errol Morris. You can look him up. He's won Academy Award, and he's been nominated many times. And he did a film called Fast, Cheap, and Out of Control. And it was a show about these interesting people that were, like, one of them was a scientist that worked with mole rats, and another one was a scientist who worked with robotics. Another one was a lion tamer, and another one was a topiary gardener, so that meant he carved bushes into the shapes of animals. And he brought together these four people with very different backgrounds, and he made you, like, there was a through line in the story where all of a sudden their viewpoint on life was really similar. And it was just brilliant the way he did it, and that kind of inspired me to do the show Sasquatch Odyssey, which was about the four old hunters, John Green, Renee Hinden, Peter Byrne, and Dr. Grover Krantz, who spent a lifetime looking for Bigfoot, and they each came from hugely different backgrounds. And 5 years ago, I was in Nepal with Peter Byrne. We were hunting tigers with our cameras to film them, and a type of huge elephant that could be related to, like, mammoths and mastodons in Nepal. And he was 86, riding the elephants with us every day.
Yeah, that's another cryptid-related topic, is the idea that there might actually be some of these woolly mammoths actually walking around North America or the Russian tundra.
Yeah, for sure. There is. I mean, I'll tell you something, like this creature that we saw there and we filmed. This is for a series called Biggest and Baddest that's on Nat Geo Wild. It's still airing. And so basically, like your average circus elephant, like, which is an Indian or Asian elephant, they stand 8 to 9 feet at the shoulder, and they weigh like 8,000 or 9,000 pounds. But this creature, this massive elephant that we were hunting in the forest, is 11 feet at the shoulder and 18,000 pounds. So basically twice the size of the largest elephant you've ever seen in your life. Like, it's as big as the very, very biggest African bull elephants ever. And typically Asian elephants are a lot smaller. So, and it's got this weird shaped head. And, it's kind of like dual, like it's got these two lobes on it that kind of make it look prehistoric.
Oh, wow.
And if you go, you can see one, it's called Rajagaj, Rajagaj. And if you put Rajagaj and Bardia Park, Nepal into the Google search, you'll see what they look like. And they're so massive, and they're dangerous too, eh? They were trampling villages when we were there. People were getting in the way and getting killed very badly, as the local guides told us. He was killed very badly. And so these elephants, that was the most dangerous show I ever did. And we were on the ground walking in the forest with forest elephants. And they're very protective of their territory and of their young ones. So we were prepared at any point to shinny up a tree. But if you pick too skinny a tree, they push the tree over, grab you with their trunk, smash you into the ground, pin you between their knees, and run their tusks through you.
Oh, God.
So you don't want that happening.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I always bring this up when I talk to anybody interested in cryptids, but the Patterson-Gimlin footage, is there a general idea amongst you and the folks that you work with that this footage is real?
Well, a lot of cryptozoologists feel it's real, that it hasn't been ever disproven. It's been analyzed so many times, and even, I had people like Stan Winston look at it, who did, Terminator, he did Jurassic Park, Velociraptors. Before he died, he built Iron Man. He also did Predator, famously. and you got to admit, those old suits are way better than CGI, right?
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure.
like Predator and Alien still rocks, right? To look at those things, they look amazing, right?
Absolutely.
And and it looks like something's actually getting eaten as opposed to a cartoon is playing with them. But that's my own private beef about. I want to see more traditional suit work come back, because they really are more frightening as monsters go.
I totally agree with you. I mean, not to go off topic, otherwise I'll have to get into the Star Wars thing.
But so the thing is, so Stan looked at it. I mean, he was a bit skeptical. He thought he could have done a better job with that, what he said was a suit. But others, experts, have looked at it and said, you know what, you'd have to put hairs on individually, like they did so this was 1967, the Patterson footage. Putting hairs on individually is what they did for Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes in 2001. By then they had the technology to do something like that. And this is before it went all CGI, of course. So what you're seeing in several of the frames of the Patterson film seems to be like musculature. You can see like calf muscles flexing and mass to the muscles, And if you put on a Halloween suit, there's no muscles under the fur. You just have a baggy suit.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's never really been totally disproven. I mean, and a lot of people have come out over the years that I wore the suit, and then they checked up, no, it wasn't him. And then the guy who was on the road crew, the guy says he faked it all. He put up all the tracks, and then, of course, you have to explain why there's tracks across 30 straight states and 5 continents. he didn't do all of them. Uh, but in general, another really credible thing is Bob Gimlin, who was there with a rifle and didn't shoot, and he's never changed his story. You know, Roger Patterson grabbed the camera and started filming, and Bob Gimlin was there on horseback with a rifle and didn't shoot, and he's never changed his story. He's never said, "Oh yeah, we hoaxed it all," and he didn't make any money from the film footage. So you'd think if he was a disgruntled, hoaxer or something, he would have said something years ago. Yeah, I got stiffed, I didn't get any of the money, and we built a suit, but he's never said that.
Have you seen any of this more recent footage? One in particular that I found on YouTube that's been going around is called the Independence Day footage.
Independence State footage, I don't think I've seen.
Okay. Well, is
Yeah,
there any footage, in your opinion, that
yeah.
you would say is the real genuine thing?
Most people agree it's the Patterson film. It's never been duplicated as well. Nat Geo tried, BBC tried, and it looks really, really bad. And it was years later with more technology, and they couldn't get it to look anywhere near as good as Patterson. So even if you think it's a fake, how did these two cowboys from Yakima, Washington, create something of that quality? And also something that was apparently a female, like that you see breasts moving and swaying on this figure as it turns. Why would you go to that extra sort of engineering feat to make it a female? That's kind of a weird thing to do. And do you know what I mean? And actually, I was with M.K. Davis, who's done a lot of analysis of it, and he's done work with astrophysics, like looking at stars and planets, where he uses filters to distinguish, details on the planet when you have a shot from a telescope. So he started applying filters to the Patterson frames, and what he discovered and showed me was that there's actually a darkening of the nipple area underneath the breasts on this Bigfoot. And holy crap, like, what kind of detail is that in a suit? Who would build something you couldn't even see? And when I saw that, I went, oh man, that's like some of the most credible evidence I've ever seen for that footage being real.
Now, this is something that I wouldn't say it's necessarily disturbing, but maybe to me because I have a little bit of arachnophobia. But I understand you actually ate a spider.
Yeah, I did a film back in the early 2000s called Spider Mania. It was for Animal Planet, and we went to some interesting areas. We went into a cave, which was really like crawling through this spiraling tunnel, which turned out to be caused by running water. Every time it rained, apparently the tunnel fills up with water to the ceiling, and we didn't really know that till we were inside and working in there. But anyway, so we were looking for a kind of spider that had never been filmed before, a blind cave tarantula on the skull of an ancient Indian found in the back. And we had to crawl under these overhangs and everything to get there. And we finally did film it. But another one of our adventures took us to Venezuela. And we were with the Pioroa Indians. And one of the things they do is they have a shaman who communicates with their dead through the spider, through this giant bird-eating spider. So they're 10 to 12 inches across, like dinner plate size. And the body is the size of a man's fist. And then the legs spread out across the dinner plate. So picture one that big. And so they speak to their aunt. The shaman takes this hallucinogenic snuff and then communicates to the dead, to the spider, because they live in these little burrows, these underground tunnel burrows, and they put webbing across them and catch creatures that way. And so that's very interesting. But in times of when the food gets scarce, they also eat the spider. But they don't eat it just anywhere. You have to go up to the cave of their ancestors. So that's what we did. It was a day hike, like 120 degrees, like lava rock, and really brutal conditions. And then you get to this cave that looks like it's been there for 40,000 years, and there's handprints on the walls, and stuck in the crevices in the rocks are the bones of their ancestors. And so out comes this basket, and a shallow basket, and then there's 7 or 8 big bird-eating spiders in there. And they they put them on the fire and crisp them up and singe all the hairs off. So now you basically have a land crab. And Rick West, who was our arachnologist, our expert on spiders, he said he felt like he was going to eat his pet dog, because he had 300 tarantulas at home in his basement, and some of them would escape, and his wife would find them in a laundry basket doing his laundry, But anyway, so we're there, and they then pass around these spiders, and, the legs are like, I can handle the legs, because the legs taste like prawn meat, because that's what, lobsters and crabs are ocean-going spiders. It's the same family. And so, that's what it tasted like, a nice barbecued prawn. But, the native guys are really getting into the gooey bits, like the guys who eat the crab innards at the crab. Like, I don't really want to get into the yellow gooey stuff, so people were doing that. But at the end of the day, you take the little poison fangs, which are about 3/4 of an inch long, and you use them as toothpicks on your teeth to get the little bits of flesh out.
Oh man, that is terrifying. How did you guys make it through that? Nobody puked?
No, because it actually tasted okay. It wasn't disgusting, right? I mean, I've had nastier things in restaurants actually. If you ever eaten sweet breads, which is like thymus gland or calf's brain or something like that, that's a lot nastier, I think.
Oh wow, yeah, I've heard people say that here in the West, eating insects and spiders is going to be popular in the future, but I don't know about that. That's really tough. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, apparently they have 40% more protein than chicken. So when they do eat it, it's very good for them.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I'm sure it's great for the people that live in that area, and you need something to eat. But I do want to go ahead and take this time and let you go ahead, and if you'd like to talk about anything that you have upcoming, or if you'd like to plug any of your websites, Peter,
Sure.
Go ahead. The floor is completely yours. Just say whatever you want.
Sure, thank you. Well, I'd like to send people over to killingbigfoot.com. We're also on Facebook under Killing Bigfoot, Twitter, Instagram. Please, if you still have television, if you can watch Destination America, and let people know let the Discovery Channel people know you'd like to see more episodes of Killing Bigfoot. It's ultimately a TV show. People get very, very serious about it. Like it's the end of civilization or something. That how can you kill these Bigfoot? And it's like, okay, it's about these men. We're presenting what they do and what has happened to them in the past. And we have some fun with it. We show interaction with the different groups. Opposed and supporting those guys, supporting, and we have real eyewitnesses. It's a really entertaining show. It's really well shot. We spend a lot of time in really tough conditions shooting it. It's up to 120 degrees some days, working at night at 90 or 100 degrees at night, venomous snakes, 18-foot briars that hang down and rip your clothes to shreds. The threat of wild hogs coming out. There's 8 million of them in the U.S. and they can kill you very easily. Just if you surprise it and it runs by you and cuts an artery with its 3 or 4 inch tusks, you're dead meat. And there's insects, there's chiggers that infest you. There's plants that give you second-degree burns. And I've been there. And you're on steroids, antibiotics, and antihistamines all at the same time. because of this plant, and your skin is peeling away, and you've got like open sores on your legs. Like it's a brutal environment. This is just, working in Florida or Mississippi or Louisiana and Texas in the woods. So take a look at Killing Bigfoot on Destination America. It's running all the time now. It runs again on Saturday nights. And we also have GryphonProductions.com, GRYPHON. It's the website for our main company, and you can see some of the things we've done in the past. And I think that's about it.
All right. Well, Peter, first of all, thank you for all the work that you've been doing in this field. It's very fascinating. And also, thank you for joining me on this program. Definitely like to talk to you again in the future. And
okay.
other than that, I've had a great time, and I hope to talk to you again. And you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks. It's been fun.
All right, my
Talk
friend.
Later. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
And there you have it. That was Peter von Puttkamer. Very fascinating stuff right there. We were a little bit limited on time. There are a few other things I wanted to talk about, but we'll have to wait until next time. The thing is about this cryptozoology topic, you can just kind of go on and just keep talking about it because there's so many other cryptids out there, like the Jersey Devil, the Megalodon, the big cats, stuff like that. Really, it's a subject that just goes on and on and on. The Mongolian death worm, the Alaskan buttworm. I'm just kidding. There's no such thing. There are tapeworms, though, and you have to be careful of those. So, everybody, thank you for sticking with this program. We're going to go on a short break. It's going to be possibly a shorter show tonight. We'll see what goes on as we venture and rage into the night. I'm going to go ahead and play a little music for you guys. Let me take special precautions to not blast your ears out. So I'm going to play a little Circle A Enterprises. That's our buddy Al, who sometimes calls into the show. And if you like his music, you can check out Circle A Enterprises on Reverb Nation and Facebook. Here we go. Hello, and welcome back to End of Days Radio. Sorry, I had a frog in my throat. Hi, everybody. This is Daniel. Welcome back to the show. If you are with us live or listening in podcast form, you just heard some Circle A Enterprises. That first song was The Sunshine of Your Eyes. The second one was called Cold Day in Hell. And the third one was Saintly Heart. That's by Al, also known as Circle A Enterprises. Kind enough to share his music with this show, so we have something to play during the break. Something original, something very unique. Pretty talented guy. He actually plays all of the instruments in his music, so it's kind of a one-man band type of thing. Just another little something that makes it unique and makes me want to play it on this show. So shout out to Al and his music. Oh boy. You know what time it is? I know what time it is. It's time for Paranormal News and Listener Roundtable. Dun, dun, dun. I don't need a sound effects board because I can just make the sounds myself, just like that guy on Spaceballs and Police Academy. You know, the guy that he pretends like he's talking to a megaphone. He goes, "Da-da, da-da, da-da." Hilarious. I love Spaceballs. I love Police Academy. Oh boy. You know, that was really tough for me because I hate spiders. I totally get that they are part of the animal kingdom. I get that they are part of the ecosystem, and there's really no reason to be afraid of them. I just can't handle it. I just can't. And here in Washington, we get these things called, what are they called? House spiders or hunter spiders or something like that. Giant house spiders. And these things are practically the size of your hand. Some of them are the size of your hand. And I have big hands, too. And these things, they're as big as tarantulas. They're not as fat, they're not as thick or hairy, but they're just as big in terms of the circumference of their legs. And there's certain times of year where they'll actually crawl up the wall. So a couple years ago, here in my little recording studio, it's in the garage, so as you can imagine, there's a lot of spiders out here. I remember one year there was like 4 or 5 really big mother effers. Each one was a little smaller than my hand, and the biggest one was bigger than my hand. And their bodies were thick, like the size of a silver dollar, a little bit smaller than a silver dollar. And these things were crawling across the wall. I guess they're mating or something like that, so they don't really crawl around that quick, but they just kind of crawl up and down the walls. And I finally got fed up, and I took a fly swatter, and I smashed each one individually against the wall. So what ended up happening was that there was tons of this yellow greenish goo just plastered all over the walls, along with spider legs just stuck to the wall, like these big long spindly spider legs just stuck to the wall. And I was too afraid of the spiders to clean it up, so it stayed like that for years and years. And eventually I finally got fed up, and I took some bleach and cleaned up the legs and the guts, but it wasn't easy, and I had to wait years for it to dry up and kind of shrink and to not be so psychologically traumatic for me. It really reminded me of something from the movie Alien. That's what these things remind me of, especially when you smash them against the wall. They look like those face hugger things, and the goo is even the same color as the movie Alien. Ugh. Yeah, I'm not a spider guy. I totally get that they're harmless, but yeah, I just can't handle it. Oh boy. Okay, so let us go ahead and begin our paranormal news section. I will start us off with the first story. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, we have a call coming in, so let's put that on hold. Hello there. Hello there. Hello. I'm hearing Todd, I think, but I'm not quite hearing him like I should. Hello? What's going on? Am I on speakerphone? Hey, pick up the phone. Hey. I'm not playing with you. Pick up the phone. This is Daniel, End of Days Radio. Who's there? Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Daniel.
Howdy.
This is Trav.
Hey Trav, what's shaking, my man?
It's been a long time. I talked to you back when you and Michael were together briefly.
Yeah, it's been way too long, buddy.
But anyways, I like your show.
Thank you. Did you listen to the interview that we just did? I just did?
I did, and that guy needs to research Dr. Powell. Dr. Powell has explained all this caveman stuff. There are cavemen. And Dr. Powell explained it, and then Dr. Powell explained the lapse in the bone history of mankind, because the aliens did come down and manipulate mankind, but they are still caveman. Anyhow, I got bigger questions.
Okay.
What's going on with the Antarctic?
Did you say the Antarctic?
No nation can go and research the Antarctic. What's going on in the Antarctic?
That's a very good question, because I'm seeing a lot of stuff focused on the Antarctic. In fact, there was a very famous story of a military general who went down there for some reason, and supposedly he encountered some aliens or some Nazis, and his entire fleet was completely destroyed.
Right. I remember hearing that story. So what? Yeah. And I understand all our nations, there's like 7 or 8 nations, have an agreement that nobody can go down to the Antarctic. And so I've got a friend who's a flat Earth believer, and he's telling me, because that's the edge of the flat Earth, you can't go there. And I'm gonna get my friend. I'm gonna bring my friend next time. We're gonna call in and solve this flat Earth thing. I've got a friend who's a flat earther, and he's hard to disprove a lot of times.
Now, Trav, have you seen any of these satellite photos that they've been...
I know the satellite photos he's all just telling me it's fake. It's fake NASA propaganda. But anyhow.
Yeah, I've actually heard that there's this big plan in place, and at some point in the future, the government is going to come forward and they're going to tell us, hey, everybody, we found some ancient artifacts in Antarctica that are not only linked to Atlantis, but also aliens and the aliens that created us. So there might be some kind of campaign of deception that we're headed into in these coming decades.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I believe. Yeah, well, thank you, for confirming my suspicions. But, yeah, you're right.
You might want to check out the work of...
Hiding something down there, we don't know.
Yeah, you might want to check out the work of Corey Goode and David Wilcox. They've been going around talking about this very thing, and they're saying what I said just now. In fact, that's where I got it from, that there's going to be a partial disclosure coming within the next decade or so.
All right.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is true. I mean, these guys could be bullshit artists just like anybody else, but I think it's at least worth looking into.
Well, thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. And, feel free to call in any time, Trav. It's good to hear from you.
I will, and I tell you what, I'm enjoying those songs from Al.
Yeah, they aren't bad.
I'm a close friend with Al, and I'm enjoying that. Thank you very much.
You hear that, Al? People like your music. All right, Trav, I'll talk to you again.
Thank you.
And there you have it. That's Trav. so good hearing from him because I remember him calling in a long, long time ago. So really cool that he's still listening to the program and still thinking about this stuff. That was pretty funny though. When he first called, I swear I was hearing a whole room full of people and I thought I heard Todd in there somewhere. But I don't know if Trav knows Todd or if that was just my mind playing tricks on me. I was screaming at them. I was like, pick up the phone! And somebody finally picked it up. So I'm glad I stuck with it and glad that I screamed like that. But, it's so weird. It talked about synchronicity because just when I pulled up this news story, Trav calls in. And check out what this news story is about. This comes from the Sunday Express, one of my favorite publications. That's express.co.uk. The article is by John Austin. I think we've talked about some of his articles before. It says, UFO whistleblower, ex-U.S. naval officer, saw entrance to secret alien base in Antarctica. Yeah, go figure. Just when I'm about to say that headline, we get a call from Trav, and he wants to talk about Antarctica. How is that even possible? Is it coincidence? Is it synchronicity? I don't know, but it's pretty cool. So, the former military man who is said to have seen 20 years of service has allegedly revealed the startling story to U.S. conspiracy theorist investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe. Hey, everybody. I'm Linda Moulton Howe. I like to do research on crop circles and alien abductions. I don't know why I talk this way, but I've been doing it for like 30 years. Stay tuned. You can hear me on Coast to Coast AM every Thursday night. I'm one of the best UFO researchers in the world. Sorry, I don't know why I'm making fun of Linda Moulton Howe. I better stop doing that. I heard she works for the government after all. That's what William Cooper said. He said Linda Moulton Howe was one of those disinfo agents. I don't know if that's true. I know he later kind of recounted that, and he said that, oh, Linda, she's probably just been doing it unwittingly. Maybe he felt bad. But you gotta love that scratchy voice, right? I always figured she would be dog ugly with that voice, but then I saw a picture of her, and I was like, what? Hey, not bad. Right up there with other lovely ladies like Heather Wade or Amy Martin. Hubba hubba. Anyways, so where was I? So this guy, he was part of a no-fly zone in Antarctica. Why would they have a no-fly zone in Antarctica? And he said he saw a giant hole to an alien base. And I think that's interesting because so many people like Dave Wilcox, Corey Good, and others, they're talking about Antarctica a lot these days. And this is nothing new because way back when people used to look for Hollow Earth and back after World War II, when the Nazis supposedly escaped to Antarctica, there's been a lot of interest in that area, at least by conspiracy researchers and people like that. If you're a fan of the Hollow Earth theory, supposedly there's a hole, or there's two holes. There's one in the North Pole and there's one in Antarctica, and water flows in and out of there. I find that very hard to believe. However, in terms of there being a Nazi base down there, I have it on good authority that that's actually real. People have come on this show and said that they have actually been there personally and they saw the bases. I haven't seen it myself, but I think there's probably something there. I'm willing to bet there's something there. Maybe not aliens, maybe Nazis, but it could be alien stuff. Who knows? There's so much weird crap everywhere. I mean, we just found Göbekli Tepe, and that's been there for a long time. We just didn't know it was there. And once we found it, it completely changed our entire perspective on human origins. So I would think that there's probably other stuff we have yet to find. I'm sure we still need to look underneath the Sphinx and figure out what's going on with the Great Pyramid and some of these underwater structures and things like that. So human origins, it is a complete mystery. I'm going to give this article 2 thumbs up because I think it's cool. I think there's probably some truth to it. I know a lot of this stuff is disinfo. The thing with Linda Moulton Howe is that people accuse her of not really looking for the good stuff. They say that she's always focused on crop circles or orbs or abductions or cattle mutilation. Like she wants to focus on these specific areas because she doesn't want to really look at the really deep stuff and doesn't want anybody to follow those particular trails. Like she wants to kind of keep everybody's attention on the simple stuff. I don't know if that's true. I know she's been around for a while. I don't mean to insult her, even though she sounds like this. Hopefully she'll join me on the show one day and I can interview her in this voice. Oh boy. I don't care. I mean, this is just a podcast. I can make fun of people all day on here. I mean, it's so funny because, you'll hear people kind of criticize and be like, oh, if you want to be a serious broadcaster, you wouldn't use foul language or you wouldn't make fun of people. Shut the fuck up. Please. I mean, come on. I've never once said that I wanted to be a broadcaster. I never once said that I was trying to get into radio. How many people that have podcasts actually end up getting into radio? None. Maybe a few. I don't know. But if you really want to get into radio, you got to do college. You got to go to school, and you have to intern at a radio station. You can't put on a podcast and expect to suddenly start getting paid. So I don't give a shit. I mean, this is something that I do for fun. I'm not trying to make money. I've said this stuff ad infinitum. I don't even have to go over it again, but I don't mind, like, when people criticize the show or give me feedback or complain about stuff, but some of these, like, reverse psychology sort of little things that they say to try to, like, control my actions or get me to act a certain way. It's just so laughable because if you think that you're going to have any influence on my actions, you're dreaming. Because I am a king. God damn it. I'm just kidding. But seriously, I want this show to be fun. I don't mind making fun of people here and there. Even if it's Linda Moulton Howell or George Snorri, the most boring guy in radio of all time. Yeah, I said it. Oh, boy. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Okay, next on the agenda. Something happened this week. Something I'm not proud of. Some of you out there, you might feel that it was a little immature of me to engage in this, but I got in a tweetar war. I had a bunch of drama on Twitter because I made the mistake, if you want to call it that, I made the mistake of pointing out that Michael Jackson, who I'm a big fan of, actually held a world record at one point for his charity work, meaning that he was in the Guinness Book of World Records for helping more charities than anybody else. And I just said matter-of-factly that somebody who does that does not seem like a child molester to me. That's just my opinion. And I've looked at the court cases. I've looked into it quite a bit. I've watched plenty of videos. And for a long time, I did think Michael Jackson was a pedophile. I admit, I used to make fun of him along with Eminem and everybody else. He was the butt of everybody's jokes. Remember back when he was still alive in England, they used to call him Jacko? I mean, how humiliating. How would you like to be called Jacko? Like you're a freaking pumpkin or something like that. Yeah, at some point, I changed my mind. I think it was at some point I really just started to realize that something was fishy about this child molestation stuff. And then I looked more into the actual case, and I found out that, for example, the woman that was saying that Michael molested her kids, she actually had been involved in false accusations before. She accused some mall security cop of something or something like that, and she admitted it. So that makes her a liar right there. And then you have the fact that the first kid that Michael supposedly molested, the parents took the money. Some people use that as evidence that Michael was trying to cover up his actions. But it works both ways. If somebody was going to accept millions and millions of dollars instead of exposing a pedophile that's going to go around and hurt other children, then those people would have to be very horrible themselves. And then they say, oh, the parents were bad, not the kid. Michael's guilty. Maybe, but I need to see some better evidence. Michael was involved with thousands and thousands of kids. I mean, he would go to charities, and he had to visit every hospital. It wasn't enough for him to just go to one hospital in the area. He'd have to go to every single one. I don't see him as being a child molester. I see him more as a Peter Pan syndrome type. I think that that's apparent because, well, let me back up a little bit. When I was arguing with people on Twitter, some people were being very stubborn about it, and of course, Jimmy Savile's name comes up, another guy who was involved with a lot of charities. The thing is, though, as soon as any mention of Jimmy Savile being involved with any sort of pedophilia came out in the news, hundreds and hundreds of people came forward. You kind of saw the same thing with Bill Cosby, right? As soon as somebody came forward, everybody else who had that happen to them decided to come forward. Okay, so Michael Jackson's been dead for years. Where are all of the people coming forward who Michael molested? I mean, he couldn't have paid them all off, right? Somebody would say something. Why hasn't even one person come forward and said, hey, Michael Jackson molested me? Now, I know that you guys that are fans of the show, you're probably into conspiracy theories. And you should know that, and I'm sure a lot of you know this already, Michael Jackson, he owned pretty much all of Sony's music catalog right before he died. They say that he was broke, but that doesn't make sense. If he really owned that music catalog, which included the music of the Beatles, which did show up on iTunes not too long after his death, that would make him a very rich man before he died. So that's a lie right there. This idea that Michael Jackson was broke. He was not broke. He owned Sony music catalog. He owned the Beatles music. He could have put it on iTunes. He could have re-released it. And he probably planned on doing that. He even took some music that belonged to black musicians back in the day. He took it and he gave the rights back to them because they had been taken advantage of originally back in the day by the music producers. He did that just out of the kindness of his own heart. Michael was also very good friends with Princess Diana, another very prominent charitable person, a good person, a hero who tried to help children and help people all around the world. Michael was friends with her. It just doesn't ring pedophile to me. I'm sorry. I've looked at the evidence. I don't think so. I mean, it's always possible. I suppose I always got to keep my mind open with an accusation like that being made. But I really feel that this had more to do with the fact that Michael was fighting back against the music industry, and he was making a lot of enemies. He was way too powerful. He outsmarted all of them. And they started destroying his name. First, they said he was gay. Michael's gay. That's what everybody was saying. He's gay. He's gay. Nowadays, people don't care if somebody's gay. It's acceptable. So, towards the end of his life, that didn't work anymore. So they had to accuse him of being a pedophile and just completely destroy him on every level to the point where he had to take drugs just to cope with everyday existence. One of the most talented singers and songwriters that has ever lived, and the most talented dancer that has ever lived. I don't think he was a pedophile. A jury, an unbiased jury, decided the same thing, but still people make fun of Michael. They call him a pedophile. I think it's really sad. Michael wrote a song called They Don't Really Care About Us, which was pretty much all about the elite and how they don't really give a crap about us. To me, that says that Michael was knowledgeable about what is or was and still is going on around the world. And I think he's a hero. That's my opinion. I hope that I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong, that means that I'm sticking up for a molester. But I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think if you look at everything completely unbiased and you look at it from the perspective of, throw out the white versus black stuff, throw out the idea that, Michael's paying people off to cover his tracks. If you just look at the evidence completely unbiased, I think you'll come to the same conclusion. It's just that when it's all over the media, people make up their minds before they really look at the evidence. But it's hard to say. It's just sad, the whole thing. Okay, enough of that. All right, let's do another news story. Why not, right? And if you want to call in, feel free to do that. I've still got the lines open. That number is 209-348-9810. Somebody in the chat room is a little mad that I made fun of Linda Moulton Howe. I don't have anything against her. I'm just having fun. That's all. She's never going to come on this show, so it doesn't matter. It's fun to kind of make fun of these people. I want this show to be where we do that, where we make fun of people. I know that sounds horrible, but it's fun. It's fun because nobody else is doing it. Everybody takes it all so seriously. I don't think that this is always that serious of a thing because, for one thing, at least half of this stuff is bullshit. I mean, let's be honest. It is. It's bullshit. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm not gonna play it up just because I'm doing a show on the paranormal. It is what it is. How much of this stuff is real? 10%? 3%? It's that 10%. It's that 3%. It's that 1%. That's why I'm in it, because that's enough for me, because that 1%, that 3%, that 10% is so fantastic, so interesting, so mind-blowing that I will sort through all of the this or that, the piles and piles of disinfo and attempts to make money. You know what it is? I'll get to this news story in a second, but just to make a quick point, I suppose I get a little disgruntled sometimes because, like, let's say I find somebody whose work I really enjoy and it's really blowing my mind and making me feel like I'm learning something, and then I go on their website and I see that they're charging $100-200 an hour to do some kind of Reiki healing or some kind of counseling or something like that, or they're selling t-shirts. You know what I mean? I'm always having these moments of, oh man, this is fake. This person is selling something. They're offering some sort of snake oil for money. And what's snake oil to me? Snake oil is when you sell something that isn't what you say it is. For example, look at this whole reptilian theory. I love reptilian theory. I research it all the time. By research, I mean watch YouTube videos and read books and stuff like that. I'm not actually traveling around the globe or anything like that. But this reptilian thing, as much as I love it, as fun as it is to research, and as much as I honestly do believe it, I do believe it. If I see somebody offering counseling for reptilian interaction or something like that, well, the first question I have is, how do we even know that reptilians exist? And I'm going to charge money for something that I'm not even sure exists? That seems unethical to me. It's just my opinion. I don't think that things like that lend credibility to this whole thing. Books aren't as bad because, for one thing, books are cheap. And I understand that people need to be compensated for their time and that it takes a long time to write a book and research things. So books I don't really have that much of a problem with. But then some of them, when I see a $40 book, like it's too expensive, it's more than it should be, that does raise an eyebrow. But most of these researchers aren't actually like that. I mean, there's some that I have so much respect for, and others that I don't have much respect for. And yeah, I could be a phony. I could be like George Norrie and just try to be everybody's friend. I could take that route. But let's face it, this is just a small podcast. I gotta be different. Not only do I have to be different, but I gotta be me. I gotta be real. I can't sit here and, oh, somebody's calling. Oh my God. The bat phone is ringing. Hello there.
What's going on, Daniel?
Oh man, it's him. It's him. It's Todd the Bod, the God.
It is the man. It is me.
The man, the myth, the legend, straight out of the countryside of Utah. Yes, that's Mormon country. It is Todd, the man himself.
It's insane here to survive the mental conditioning, to break free of the horrible conditioning that's so thick. I'm a rare breed. You're correct.
What's on your mind tonight, Todd, before I start?
Oh, well, we just listened to the show. I hope I didn't interrupt the paranormal news part.
Nope. That's what this section is all about. The news is just to get us along in between the calls. This is really more about the roundtable type stuff and the calls.
I've got a lot of thoughts about music on my mind lately. You can go into different groups and cults, and music's a powerful part of their rituals and mechanisms that they use to get people into deeper states of trance, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think that there's something to that. Of course, the guest that I had on a few weeks ago, Paul Marco, he pointed out that there's a type of music called trance music, which is actually designed to do just that, put you in a trance.
Well, anybody can call something trance music, and it might put something in a trance and someone in a trance, and it might not put another one, right?
Yeah, and that it's kind of scary when you think about the idea that certain types of beats and rhythms can actually open up your subconscious, and that way you can slip other stuff in there.
Well, you can experiment by yourself and make some recordings of yourself in different states of consciousness, and then you realize that sometimes something makes sense in one state of conscious where it doesn't make sense in another. You can record yourself.
You know, Todd, I often wonder about that with the Bible. I wonder if you have to be in some sort of special state of mind to read the book of Revelations, and maybe then it makes total sense. I read it a long time ago when I was on LSD, and I swear it made way more sense than normal.
Well, that sounds potent. It's definitely an archetype. It's an end of days archetype. It's the end of the world. The book of Revelations is, discussing how the end of the world starts and how it ends. And so it's an archetype that you could tap into if you were in one of those states of mind. For sure, Daniel. You don't have to be a Christian to read that book and feel the incredible vision that was seen, that everybody's influenced by, that we're almost living through.
I agree. I totally agree, Todd. And I am not a Christian. Just to be clear with everybody, I'm not a Christian. I'm absolutely not. However, I do believe that there is quite a bit of truth in the Bible, and I do believe that all religions have that little slice or maybe even a decent chunk of the truth. So I don't like putting down any particular religion, even if it's Satanism, even if it's Luciferianism. I don't like to put down any belief system.
You know where I put down religions, Daniel? Where they oppress human beings. That's where I put them down. I'll let anybody believe what they want, but please don't force your view on me, because I'll accept any view, and listen to your view. I'm against his oppression in any form, religious, political.
Now, Todd, I was listening to the news a little while ago, and apparently down by Disney World, the Mormon Church is building a huge community. Like, they're building a freaking Exodus location where they're all going to go live. Have you heard about that?
I haven't heard about that, but they have so much money. The Mormon Church is the wealthiest corporation this side of the Mississippi, and that's in documents. You can think about all the rich organizations that exist east of the Mississippi, They're the wealthiest one west of the Mississippi.
Yeah,
so they could do anything.
Well, the reason why they have so much money is they run the organization like the secret society.
Oh, they have the secret handshakes, their secret signals, their secret rituals that if you're a member, you get to go inside of. You wouldn't believe the crap I was raised around here, and man, they control a large sector of our society right here. I grew up where I was like, holy shit, doesn't anybody think? And there's like 51% of where I live isn't Mormon. But the Mormons control this place. Ask anybody that lives here. They got a lock on it. They control the politics, the drug laws, the alcohol. You got to go to the liquor stores. You can't go to a grocery store and buy a bottle of booze. You got to go to state-run liquor stores where they make money. And that's just a side issue, but it's all about the control.
Yeah, I see some of these people. Like, I grew up with a lot of them, and I remember a lot of these Mormon families, they'd have like 10 kids, and 7 of them would be like these really hot, sexy blonde daughters. But, you know, they were like...
Oh, there's so many goddamn corn-fed blonde girls around here.
Oh, yeah, but you can't even go near them because they're only going to date Mormon guys. They're all whacked out in the head. They won't even give you the time of day.
Yeah, it's almost like an Aryan race thing where they're blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and they do connect with each other, too, you know.
But I will
You're
pretend...
Mormon, I'm Mormon.
Sure, I will pretend
You're
to be Mormon.
Blonde-haired, blue.
I will pretend to be Mormon to get a piece of that.
Well, they say it's like strawberries, but that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about.
Oh, no, I get it. Mormon pussy is like strawberries. Strawberry Mormon pussy.
Because they're planning stuff all the time, you know? They're natural girls. And they're corn-fed. But no, Daniel, don't. We're talking about some serious shit here for a minute. The cryptozoids. I love cryptozoology. One of the first things that got me into paranormal shit was the idea that weird creatures exist just outside of our consciousness, or our civilization. They exist out on the outskirts of our civilization. I have one Bigfoot story, and I'm going to save that bitch. But
you can tell it if you want, Todd. You can tell it if you want. I don't care.
Okay, all right. Well, I didn't want to take up too much time. I just love your show.
No, go ahead. I mean, don't make it like a 40-minute thing, but I'll turn my mic.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it to 5 minutes at the most.
Okay, I'll turn my mic off and just let you go. Go ahead.
I was 20 years old and had a beautiful girlfriend at the time, and we decided to go up at the Capitol, up above Salt Lake City. There were old ruins of old buildings that existed, and the forest gets pretty wild just up above Salt Lake City. It gets kind of thick. And so we spread out a blanket, took some wine coolers, and we're sitting out there and, a couple hours catching a buzz, necking out. And then the next thing you know, something started kind of ruffling on the edge of this big wide tree range. And we were like, that's kind of weird, didn't pay any attention, but then we started realizing, fuck, there's something over there. And so we didn't know what it was because it stayed inside the trees, but it was ruffling the trees really fucking hard. And we're like, fuck, let's get the shit, let's gather our shit, let's get out of here. It's starting to get dark now, it's getting dusk. So we gathered our blanket and our wine coolers and all that shit, and me and my girlfriend at that point started walking back towards our car. But there was a 50-foot trail you had to go through with trees on both sides of you that were 8 feet high. A trail that you walked out to. All of a sudden, this thing started freaking out inside of the trees alongside us. And I'm saying it freaked us out so bad that the hair on our arms stood up straight, and we started running. And so we were running for 50 feet at least, and to get out to the parking lot where the cars are. And this thing was crashing through the trees as fast as we were running.
Wait. I'm sorry to cut you off, Tom, but do you mean it was like crashing through the trees like that show Lost, where you just saw the trees just like falling down and...
No, it's dark, so we're looking inside of us, and we're running, and it's you can just hear it. And it's crashing through bushes that you couldn't run through them.
Oh, shit.
As a human being. And, Daniel, we were so scared, my girlfriend and I at the time, we ran to my car and fucking started it and fucking drove out of there just like in the movies. I'm not shitting you. It stopped at the bushes. And that's why I'm saying, how can it be a moose? I thought back about this over the years because that was when I was young. It wasn't a moose. It was something that was following right alongside us, and it was letting us know that it could crash through trees. Have you ever heard those Bigfoot stories about how Bigfoot just grabs a fucking tree limb and rips it off?
Well, actually, I would say about 7 years ago, just across the street from me, there's a forested area, and pretty much exactly like you described, there was something back there, and it was knocking down some of the smaller trees and making all sorts of noise. And I was thinking to myself, well, I know that deer don't do that. Deer are agile. They just move in and out of things.
It was intimidating us. It scared us to hell. And that's why I don't know if these things are an actual physical being, or some kind of ultra-terrestrial where they have energy, they're made of energy or something. My thoughts on this, I think they might be traveling between portals or coming in and out of other dimensions.
Yeah, and the really messed up thing about it is we don't know what is in the deepest parts of the forest. We don't know what's down in the Mariana Trench. We don't know what's out there in space. There could be creatures out there that are completely beyond our idea of what life is. I mean, look at the giant squid. We were talking about that earlier. Look at some of these things they find in the jungle, some of these parasites that live in the human body. Life is crazy. I mean, the diversity, and that's what's so scary about the idea that we're killing off this planet, because if we kill off too many of these species, obviously we're next.
Daniel, did you ever look into the David Paulides stuff about the missing people?
You know what's funny? I think that somebody just brought that up to me. It might have been Sherry was talking about that. That is an interesting topic, and that's something that is disturbing to me, especially the idea that way more people go missing than we even realize.
And not only do they go missing, which that's recorded, but the stories that they do have descriptions of how they disappeared, they're being abducted by monsters. If you look at these police reports, there's some of the weirdest shit you've ever heard, and it's occurring in the remote regions of the United States, in the national parks. Please look into that, because it ties into the Bigfoots, and millions of people go disappearing every year. Sometimes I wonder if they're not using them as slaves to mine colonies on Mars,
Yeah, that's possible. I've heard all kinds of theories, very disturbing theories. The main one is that people are being taken for their actual their adrenochrome, so they're being eaten and terrorized. These reptilian aliens, supposedly they really like to eat this adrenochrome stuff.
It's potent shit, and when you think about people that right here on Earth are killing the last members of species, elephants, for their ivory, it wouldn't surprise me if alien beings are killing humans for their fear adrenaline that it produces.
Have you seen that movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I love Hunter S. Thompson. I've been reading him since I was young. Johnny Depp played in the movie, yeah.
The reason I bring that up is because they talk about that substance, adrenochrome, in that movie, and there's also a part in that movie where Johnny Depp is looking around. He's obviously totally whacked out on drugs, but he sees everybody shift into these reptilian dinosaur type beings. I think that's kind of a weird coincidence, don't you think?
Not just that. Have you ever heard the idea that people have seen something, Daniel, that they call 3D? People have tuned into like a state of consciousness where they can see three-dimensional reality. Have you ever heard of this?
You might have to explain that a little bit more.
Well, without getting too specific, people have claimed that they go into a certain state of mind and they can actually see everything around us in microscopic detail. They can come in and out their vision. You know how we experience normal vision?
Oh,
They
okay,
can
yeah.
see in and
yeah.
out, and it's like 3D.
I know what you're talking about. In fact, some of these people claim they can actually take their finger and close their eyes and lift their finger up in the sky and actually see with their finger.
Well, we're electrochemical organisms, and the world is made up of electromagnetic energy streams, right?
Yeah.
Electricity's coming off you. It's inside you. It's coming from the sun. It's coming out of the earth. There are fields of energy. Yep. So that doesn't sound so crazy.
And there's also the, this actually might be what you were talking about. When people have out-of-body experiences, they're able to see a full 360-degree radius around them.
Yeah, I had a astral experience, and it was totally
What?
3D. Well, not 3D, like what I was talking about a minute ago. It was my spirit come out, and it traveled around to where it wanted to go, and it was amazing.
Where did it want to go?
I could see the world as I left my body. I could see the house below me.
You went to the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader locker room?
No, I went to the girl I was in love with. Don't you remember me telling you that story?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
The most beautiful girl.
Yeah, she remembered it and she broke up with you.
And I come into her house, and I'd never been to her house. I don't know if I was at her house. Maybe I'd been to her house or not. I don't remember that detail, but I come into her bedroom, and it's night, and I come over, and I was just in love. And I gave her a kiss, and she opened her eyes and went, "What the fuck?" And then I just went back into my body. Like a rubber band pulled me back.
See, Todd, that's why I can't do that, because I would immediately go find Heather Wade.
Well, you told me don't visit you if I ever get to that point.
You know what, Todd? It's so funny that we're talking about this, because recently I've just really been wanting to see an alien. Like, I want to see an alien. I've seen UFOs aplenty, but I've never seen a damn alien. I want to see an alien.
Well, I think about the alien thing, and I think if you're not careful, you might see something that's so mind-shattering. If you really want to look at the alien question or the picture, because it could be so big and so old and so all around us that it could shatter your mind if you asked for them to reveal it.
I've heard things like that.
Blow our fucking mind. Because you know how we stay sane? We keep the deep subconscious of ourselves at bay and locked up.
But you know what's weird, Todd? I mean, sorry to cut you off, but like, I'll have a lot of conversations with people, right? And like, probably like 60-70% of Americans are Christian. So that means they believe in the devil, they believe in Lucifer, they believe in afterlife, they believe in devils and angels and demons and all that. Yet when I try to talk to them about demons or revelations and stuff like that, they just kind of shut down. Like they don't want to talk about it. Like it makes them kind of freak out a little bit.
Well, in my opinion, those things all exist, but they exist in a way that people can't grasp.
But the reaction that people have, it's so weird because it's almost like it does something to them physically. They start shaking and becoming very afraid.
Oh, I've known born-again Christians, Mormons, Buddhists, Indians. I have some Indian shaman, some shaman Indian friends. You know how you get a good big picture of the universe? Make friends with everyone, of every faith.
Some of my favorite Art Bell interviews, like I was talking about that one that my guest earlier, Peter, had with Art Bell, but there's a guy named Red Elk that did some interviews with Art Bell years and years ago, and he was a Native American shaman, I'm pretty sure he was, and those are some of the best interviews I've ever heard. I mean, that guy goes into everything. These Native Americans, they have a great body of knowledge that they pass on through oral tradition.
I have a friend that's been ordained by the Navajos. I don't know if that's the right word, but he puts on sweat lodges, and man, he knows how to, the traditions where they get the smoke going. They call out they'll cast out demons. They cast out evil spirits and cleanse you. And I never did it because I'm a shaman, but of a different degree. But I've been down there with them and hung out, and just lots of people, Daniel, over the years, lots of people. That's why I love your shows, because you really have a platform where people can talk about these deeper subjects, and that's how we're going to save this world, buddy, like you've been saying all along.
Well, it's kind of funny when you think about it, the fact that you have the Native American culture, there's a strong belief in demonic beings, and then you go down to South America, the native people down there, they have the same beliefs. You go into the old world, old Europe, and you see the same thing there, just like you see it in the cultures around the Middle East and that area as well. Pretty much everywhere has a belief in spirits and has a belief that sometimes these spirits need to be exorcised out of people.
Yeah, and that's because they have an understanding that as human beings, we all have these old basic drives inside of us. And we sometimes that's the way they explained it. We need to purge ourselves, or we need to be exorcised of bad traits. Sometimes it's real demons, Daniel, and sometimes it's psychological mechanisms that are thousands of years old, that they understood how to, the old shamans, heal a person.
Yeah, I think that another problem with that is that a lot of people hear that word demon and they think this is something evil that needs to be exorcised. But in my opinion, many of these demons, this is something that obviously I've gained from the occult world, but they're actually here to show us something about ourselves. They're here to help us spiritually develop.
They teach you a lesson, and that's something hard to explain to people that are super Christian, is that sometimes these things are tricksters, and yeah, it's horrible, but the results, the outcome, the tragedy is worth the lesson learned.
Exactly. Even in the Christian world, there is the idea that God, he gave permission to Satan/Lucifer, that he can go ahead and go out there and run the earth, and he can do whatever he wants, and he can tempt man. He can try to sway the hearts of man because he needs to get his equal chance in order to take over the world or whatever agenda that he has. So that's definitely got to play into that mindset, whether you're a Christian, whether you're some other religion. I think that these things are kind of universal. It's just more a matter of having a spirituality and believing in an afterlife. And to me, there's so many more things that religions have in common than things that divide. It's too bad that people can't see that.
Well, at the heart of all the best teachings, Daniel, it was love, right? That was the most powerful thing of it all. Not the fire and brimstone, you're going to go to hell. It was the we all need to get together and love each other. That was the most powerful teachings, and probably the ones that they want to obscure in the end.
Absolutely, I agree, because these elite, these people that are in charge and have been in charge for thousands of years, they seem to have wanted in recent memory to completely strip society of any spirituality, because that's what they want. They want everybody to be competitive. They want them to be materialistic. They want them to worship the material world, having more than your neighbor, having more than the other guy, because that's what fuels the industrial machine. That's what fuels our society. That's how this system is created, where a very small percentage of people can sit at that top of that pyramid and have all the power and just lord over us and basically have the 99% while we get the 1%.
You know what makes me sick, now that you got me on that topic? These motherfuckers built the greatest shit on earth with our tax dollars. You know, all our technologies, all the best stuff, America. That's our tax dollars. They did it in secret, what they've been doing, using all their societies to hide their agendas and their councils, Daniel, as we've talked. It doesn't mean they control the future, because there's more people than there are on Earth than there are this little classes trying to run us. And that's the danger they face.
Oh yeah,
there's more of us than them.
There's a big list of councils and societies. I mean, the CFR, Club of Rome. It just the list goes on and on and on.
Oh, deep. That's how corrupt it is. Sick.
Yeah, exactly. They've actually put together organizations and channeled billions and trillions of dollars into these organizations just to figure out ways to fuck over the common man.
Fuck us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The stupid masses of people.
Sick.
The meat. That's all we are to them, is meat.
But, you know, look how corrupt and deep and thick their deep shadow government is. Guess what? They're going to have to get thick and deep and corrupt and spend as much money as they can rip off, Daniel, because they're not going to pull it off. They're not going to win in the end. You know why? Because the human spirit can't be fucking put in a little box and controlled and stomped down, the little fucking sprout of mankind. Can't be killed.
Not the American human spirit, anyway.
I hope.
No, I completely agree with you. Supposedly, that's really the name of the game, where we're trying to evolve naturally here on this planet, but something has interfered. Something has been manipulating the time stream. Something has been trying to hold us back and basically just keep us in this solidified state where we
I felt it a long time ago when I realized they were trying to keep us in like 1950. And I'm like, why the fuck would they keep us in 1950? Because they're already out in 2050. They're trying to keep us back 100 years so they can get out into space or whatever they've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that the real time is not 2017. It's just that we're kept in this little time bubble. It might be a loop, it might not be, but we keep coming back into this time period right before the evolution of the internet, right before 9/11, right before the rise of the New World Order. For some reason, we're in the here and now with all of this crazy shit going on. Maybe
And
because,
even that, Daniel, as you and I've talked about, could still be a game where they're playing us, where they're putting out disinformation agents, where they're changing the timeline. Bill Cooper, he always said, "Don't even trust me." Whatever they're trying to put out.
yeah. In fact, there's even been changes to the human skeleton. We used to have just empty eye sockets, like holes in our skulls. Now there's bone in there. There's like bone in our eye sockets, and I don't remember that being there. I mean, I'm not exactly an anatomy expert and never have been, but I don't remember there being bone in the skull, like behind the eyes. That's new.
Sounds strange.
Yeah, look it up. Look it up.
Well, the whole DNA thing, all of it. Believe me, your show and everything that we're discussing, this isn't a coincidence. The reason we're going through this is because there's some kind of time warps.
Yeah,
some kind of time.
Todd, I completely agree with you, and we could probably go on about this forever, but I better get back to the news, buddy.
Sounds good, my man. Okay, I love the show. We'll talk to you later.
All right, talk to you later, Todd. Bye.
Peace.
Yeah, there you have it. Our buddy Todd. I totally agree with that. I mean, pretty much everything he was saying. I don't know exactly what's going on, and I don't pretend to know, and I hate being another one of these people with all these theories and no way to prove it. I absolutely hate it. It makes me feel very hypocritical, but I know that there's something going on. I know that, you can call it the end of days. I don't think it's the end of days. I think that the end of days is a concept. It's an archetype. It's a way of looking at the current situation. And it very well might be the end of days in terms of end of the world as we know it. You remember that song? And it's funny that they use that verbiage, isn't it? It's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine because I know that there's not really anything to worry about. That's why I'm partying right into the end times. You want to hang out with me in my bunker? Smoke some weed, drink some 40s, F some hoes? We'll probably only have whatever ugly chicks are left after all the radiation has spread across the globe. We'll probably have some mutant three-titted bitches up in there. I don't know. Anyways, let's get back to the news, shall we? Next story. Ooh, this is this is something else right here. Let's see here. If it would just let me actually open it. Come on. Hey, okay, let's try a different way. Let's try to bring it up on my computer instead of my iPad. The iPad's resisting what I'm trying to get it to do. It's gone rogue on me. It's formed a mind of its own. Now it is the master and I am the slave. The iPad is in control. Okay, so here we go. This is from thesun.co.uk, another British tabloid. This article is by Lauren Windle. Glamorous model Giselle and her husband Tom Brady are, in quotes, transgender Illuminati, according to one imaginative conspiracy theorist. So, this is so funny. I mean, I'm not even sure if I should read about this. But this guy, he goes into the shapes of their bodies, and he uses that as a basis to say that they are both transgendered. Holy crap, this gazelle, she looks great. My God, wow. I don't know who she is. This is the first time I've ever... Okay, she's a Victoria's Secret model. That's why. My God, she looks great. This article is trying to say that's a man? That is not a man. Holy crap. Damn you, Tom Brady. Why are you so lucky? Why do you get everything? And you stole the Super Bowl from us. You goddamn shady Brady. You deflator. You freaking football deflator. I hope that he is transgender because I hate Tom Brady. He's a cocky bastard. I know everybody doesn't watch football. I totally get that, but I'm sure that you know who Tom Brady is. You might want to check this article out on your own. It looks like complete crap. Kind of funny, though. that people would actually be looking at these pictures and making these accusations. I remember they did something like that with Lady Gaga. They were saying she was a transgender or something like that, and it turned out she stuck a sock in her underwear to make it look like she had a dong, something like that. Totally stupid, right? Some kind of publicity stunt. Yeah, I don't know. Tom Brady being transgendered. He has a hell of a throwing arm on him. I don't know if a woman could do that. But who am I to say? He does look a little feminine. It just sucks when the same teams always win, doesn't it? I mean, how many World Series are the Yankees going to win? And we all know it's because they have the most money and they can afford the best players. I'm just waiting for all the Yankees fans out there to just completely lynch me right now, because I've gotten into it before. Let me tell you something. Never say that to a Yankees fan. They will hate you for the rest of their life. Why don't I just alienate everybody today? Okay. So what's next? Okay, so you guys, I'm sure if you're fans of the show, I'm sure that you are aware of the Bohemian Grove, the cremation of care ceremony. I'm sure that you're aware of that. Do you really understand what's going on there? Basically, this ceremony is a mock human sacrifice, and the goal is to completely let go of any sort of guilt, any sort of care, any sort of sense of responsibility. We know Bohemian Grove is real. We know that many prominent leaders attend, a lot of them Republican, Democrats as well. We know that this place in California, Bohemian Grove, it's full of our world's leaders. We know that the cremation of care is an occult ceremony. Of course it is. It's a human sacrifice. What are you going to say? That's performance art? That's pro wrestling? No, it's occult shit. Obviously. But it's disturbing, and I'll tell you why. Because these are our leaders, and they are doing a magical ritual to completely get rid of any sort of guilt, to get rid of any sort of sensitivity towards whatever things that they may do. That's not good. We want these people to care. They're our leaders. If they're getting rid of any sense of caring, then we should not elect them to be our leaders, because we cannot trust them. They don't have sensitivity. They don't have the same ethics that we have. And this is a common thing in the occult world. And let me tell you, this is exactly why the pedophilia happens. Because let me tell you, once you go there, there ain't no coming back from that. You will never be okay with yourself. You will never be able to live a peaceful day in your life. And that's why they do it. That's why they want people to engage in the pedophilia and all the other weird crap that they get up to, the human sacrifice and things like that. Because once you do that, hey, you're dark-sided, baby. There ain't no coming back from that. Maybe if you live 100 lives and, you get past it, you reincarnate a bunch of times. But, I mean, hey, you get into that stuff, you are a sick bastard. If you're male or female. And they do that because of the psychological effect it has on you. Magic is just science. And when you're engaging in that type of ritual, you are crossing all kinds of boundaries within yourself. You are superseding your own ethics. Not only does that completely change who you are, not only does that push you to a point that there's no coming back from morally and ethically, but it makes you into a complete tool for whatever agenda they have. Because now you're in on it. Now you're part of the club. And they're all in on it. So the rest of your life is going to be about materialism. It's going to be about ego. It's going to be about power. It's going to be about personal gain. And that's why they do things like the cremation of care. That's why pedophilia is running rampant all over the globe. And it's also for blackmail purposes, because who wants to wind up like Michael Jackson, a possibly innocent person who actually tried to help the world, and now everybody thinks he's a pedophile? It's really sad, right? It's sick and it's sad. I mean, Michael Jackson, everybody thinks he's a pedophile, but all these leaders, they get away with it. Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Bill, Hillary's bisexual and Bill doesn't care, loves it. Sorry, I had a little coughing fit right there. But yeah, some of these leaders I heard are just really perverted and getting up to all sorts of things. Anthony Weiner. Oh my god, I have such bad allergies today. Oh boy. But that is why these people are into weird sex shit and pedophilia and stuff like that. It's for the blackmail. It's to pass that ethical, moral boundary within the self. And then there's also a third thing that happens, which is the creation of this adrenochrome, this loosh energy, this... Sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. But this... that's not a good time to laugh. But there's this creation of this energy which they use to perform their spells and their reality manipulation. I know it sounds totally crazy, but the truth is that your body's energy, your chi, your kundalini, that is your sexual energy. And if you mess with that natural flow within the body, you can really screw a person up. That's why people that get molested, they're messed up for the rest of their lives, because it does all kinds of things to you. You know, things that I can't even explain. It's so complicated and so traumatic and hurtful. And that's why it's so evil. That's why you should never take advantage of a young person. I mean, even if it's you're a 30-year-old and you're hooking up with a 17-year-old or something like that, that's somebody that just isn't ready for that. And that's why society has, given a certain number that marks a person as an adult, because in general we agree that somebody that's 18 years old is ready. And of course there's going to be variation there, but you guys don't mess around with jailbait. That's not a good idea. You're going to get yourself arrested. You're going to cause all sorts of drama. Make sure they're at least 18, preferably 19 or 17 and a half. I'm just kidding. Oh boy. I'm going to hear about this one. Okay, so another thing I want to talk to you guys about, if you have any toys, if you have any old action figures, if you have any dolls, I know we don't like to use that word doll, we like to use the word action figure. Please, please, please do not ever give those things away. Do not give away your old toys. Do not give away your old video game systems. Don't give away records, CDs, comic books. I know that you are running out of space. I get that. Keep that shit. I used to have these action figures. They were DC comic superheroes. Like I had Superman, I had the Joker, I had Wonder Woman. I remember when I was a kid, and somehow the Joker was always kidnapping Wonder Woman, and like the other heroes would have to save her. And as I got older, I actually realized that if Wonder Woman and the Joker fought, Wonder Woman could just grab the Joker's head and rip it off. But when I was a kid, I didn't understand that. So the Joker would always capture Wonder Woman. And I suppose I could explain that away. Like I could say he drugged her or gave her some GHB or something like that. This is terrible. But anyways, my point is, please do not ever give away your toys, because those things are going to be worth money, and they will always have that sentimental value. They will always have that memory attached to them. So please do not give away your toys ever. Don't give away your toys. Don't give anything away. Just keep it. Keep it. Trust me. You're going to regret it. When I was a kid, my mother, she gave away all of my stuff. Like, there would be some poor kid living close to us, and she would just give that kid all my toys, and she'd say, "Oh, you're too old for those," or "We don't have the room." Oh, sorry, I started crying. I was bringing up those memories of my toys getting given away. But you know what I mean? Like, that sucks when you realize that you had something that's now worth thousands of dollars, but it was given away, like an old video game or a toy. Just a little piece of advice. You don't have to follow it. Okay, I got some other stuff on my list here. This is weird. If you are into weird stuff, I actually posted this in the End of Days Radio forum at endofdaysradio.com/forum. You can go to endofdaysradio.com and click on forum. But I posted a video in there that I found on YouTube, and it's called "Man Creates Monster in His Basement with Sperm and Egg." So this guy took an egg and he mixed it with his sperm, and God, this is gross. I feel uncomfortable even talking about this, but we've been talking about eating spiders and all kinds of nasty shit, so I might as well keep going. So this guy took an egg and his own sperm. I don't know if he I don't know if he collected it first or just had a fun time on the egg, but he took these two elements and he stuck them in a canister of water, and apparently they turned into some kind of living creature that he calls a homunculus. And a homunculus is a term from the old days. It's from like alchemy or something like that. I'd have to look that up. But he created this actual living creature, and it looks like a cylinder with a little hole at the top of it. And supposedly he actually feeds this disgusting monstrous thing. And he's got a video of this food that's like sticking in its mouth, and then there's like drool coming out of the hole. It's so nasty. It's so gross. I probably got some of you puking by now, but if you want to see something really disgusting, I suggest you go over to YouTube, pull out your phone, and look for homunculus on YouTube. And a lot of people are saying this is fake, and I agree. It looks totally fake. There's some other videos where there's like another one of these things and one with an eyeball, and supposedly a lot of people are trying the same experiment and having success with it. It looks totally fake to me. I mean, I remember when there were sea monkeys, you would actually order these sea monkeys, or you can buy them from the store now, but you would think that they would be these little monkey things and they would play with toys and do ballet and do gymnastics and stuff like that. But when they actually hatch, they're just these little shrimp things. And, you know, people joke about sea monkeys, but at least they were real. I mean, at least if you order them, you actually have something to show. You actually have these little creatures. They don't live long, but it's fun. I mean, you do it once, probably never do it again. It's like having an ant farm. Kids are often into things like hamsters, lizards, and usually that stuff just isn't worth it. I mean, I've had 2 or 3 hamsters, and you're supposed to change their cage like once every 3 days or something like that, and nobody ever changes the cage as much as you should. And those hamsters just end up living in some very shitty environments. So I actually recommend maybe getting a puppy or something like that instead. But if you want to see something totally disgusting, you can check that out. All right. I wanted to talk a little bit about my partying years, like my high school / post high school partying years. I wanted to kind of talk about that. It might be interesting. And I also wanted to talk about why I kind of got away from that lifestyle. But I think I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for next time because it's 10:30. We've been on the air for almost 3 hours, and this is going to be a big, long thing. So I don't really want to get all into it tonight. So hopefully I'll remember to talk about this next week. So I suppose you could call that a hook or a cliffhanger. I want to share a little bit more about myself. I've been a little bit coy lately since I started this show. I've been kind of hesitant to really put myself out there, to really be me, to be honest, to be real. But while I might get better results by being fake and by doing things that other people tell me to do, I know that ultimately that is not going to work. And that's what I've been saying the entire time that this show's even existed. I've been saying, look, if we listen to this person, if I listen to this person, it might get better results immediately. But if you really want to be good on the radio, you cannot you cannot care that much what people think. You can't conform to the idea of a radio host. You got to be yourself, because you can put on interviews, but a lot of people put on interviews. You can even be funny, but a lot of people are funny. But how many people are really able to be themselves on air? That is hard. And it's something that you have to do a lot of introspection to actually be able to pull off. Just some food for thought. I need to think about it, not you guys. You guys just need to listen. I'm talking to myself here on air. Anyways. Okay, so I'll save that until next time. Thank you to everybody that called in tonight. Shout out to Trav. Shout out to Todd. And you know what else I'm going to do? I want to go ahead and shout out the people that are actually donating to the show, because as I've talked about many times, this show's not about making money. I do accept donations to help with the bills and stuff like that, but I always feel kind of bad when people donate. I mean, I don't know. I just do. So I want to just show my appreciation to those people. So why not just shout them out at the end of the show, right? Simon Parks does it. I stole the idea from Simon Parks. So sue me. But I think it's a good idea. So I want to shout these people out. And a lot of people have donated throughout the years, and I can't possibly go back and bring them all up and shout out everybody, but I can start now. And if you want me to shout you out, if you've donated money in the past, feel free to just, shoot me a message on Twitter or send me an email. Don't be embarrassed about it. Just say, hey, Daniel, I donated some money a couple years ago. Just letting you know, and I will go ahead and I will shout you out on the next show. That's perfectly fine. Don't feel weird about doing that. I don't mind. But I want to shout out Vanessa. She recently donated to the show, as well as Kevin Mayer. He donates like $5 every month, which is super cool of him, because I don't charge for the show, and he's like paying for it like I do charge for. Oh wait, you know what I just thought of? Some of these people might not want their names shouted out on air. I just thought of that. Maybe I won't do that. Maybe I won't. So if you don't want your name shouted out and you donate to the show, just include a note and say, I want to donate anonymously. Okay? I think that's a good compromise, because I just want to show my appreciation for the people that are actually doing stuff like that, because I think that they should get some kind of appreciation. I mean, I can't send everybody a t-shirt, or I can't send them a little Daniel action figure with a little bong and a little computer. I can't do that, but I can shout people out. I don't mind doing that. I think that's a cool thing to do. And if you don't want me to shout out your name, like I said, just include a little note. Daniel, don't shout out my name. And I'll only shout out your first name. I apologize to Kevin. I'll only shout out your first name. Boy, I really screwed that up, didn't I? But hey, I gotta be me, like I said. Okay, let's do our plugs and get out this biatch. So every Saturday night here at endofdaysradio.com, you can listen to this show live. I want you to know that. And please stop by. Come by the chat room and chat with me. The chat is really off and on. Like, sometimes there's people in there, sometimes there isn't. But I really want to have people in there participating. So please stop by Saturday night, 7:45 Pacific Standard Time. endofdaysradio.com. endofdaysradio.com. That's where I'm at. That is where the live show is at. That's where you can come by. You can interact with me. You can tell me what to do. You can tell me to F off. You can do whatever you want to do. Just do whatever you want to do. Like the Hodge twins say, do whatever the fuck you want to do. I love that. So stop by endofdaysradio.com every Saturday night at 7:45 Pacific Standard Time, PM. The call-in number, that's 209-348-9810. If you want to leave me a funny message, if you want to do some sort of like prank sort of thing, something you want me to do on air or play on air, I should say, go ahead and call that number and leave me whatever funny message that you want to. Please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube. Follow me on Twitter, that's at Ninja Shoes. Follow me on Instagram, that's Ninja Shoes 777. Yeah, I just freaking said Instagram. What am I, a friggin' millennial now? Instagram. That's The Real End of Days Radio. Once again, that's The Real End of Days Radio on Facebook. And what else? If you want to donate, go to endofdaysradio.com and click donate. If you like pro wrestling, MMA, stop by ninjashoes.net. That's my old thing back when I was young and I was doing things. It's a mixed martial arts site, forum, and it's a show that I'm working on. This is the main thing. I say that all the time, but this is the main thing because this is what I started first. And this is my mission, to enlighten humanity, or maybe at least piss a few people off, provide some quality entertainment if I can, if I drink enough energy drinks. And what else is there? Hey, that's it. Let's talk about the calendar a little bit, all right? We're looking at 7 Bomar next Saturday night. That's March 25th. That should be a fun show. We've also got Neil Sanders April 4th. That's the following weekend. We've got quite a few folks coming down the pipe as well. I just have not listed them yet. It's tentative. But we are always improving here at End of Days Radio. We are always improving. We're always getting better. We're always pushing ourselves because what we're doing here, we are fighting for a better tomorrow. We are fighting for our rights to party. We are fighting to keep our rights. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about gun control tonight. I forgot. Damn it. Should I go into it? Ugh. It's so late. I'll save it for next time. I know you guys don't want to listen to no damn 5-hour show. I just know you don't. You don't have that type of time. I understand that. You got to pick up your kids from soccer practice. You got to get a haircut. You got to try to get some sex from your wife. Notice I said try. Hopefully it's not that hard. Although I know it probably is. You know she's sleeping with the mailman. You know this. Oh, God. I'm just kidding. Please calm down. Okay. I think that's it. Fuck it. Okay. I do really want to say thank you to you guys, though. Like, all joking aside, like, let me just be serious for a moment. You guys are so friggin' cool. Like, really. Like, more and more, I've realized how friggin' cool fans of this show are. And a lot of them that aren't so cool, they have kind of moved on, and I love that. I love that. Like, we got the hardcore here, and we got the people that really want to look into this shit, and the people that really want to be real and truthful and appreciate the fact that I'm not about a bunch of bullshit. I love that. And I love you guys. You're so awesome. I know I say that too much, but it's so true. When you tell me things like you like this show, or you give me that feedback, that's all I need. That's all I need. And you don't even have to say that, because I don't need anything. But I love that. So once again, just thank you. Thank you so much, all of you listeners out there. I say listeners, I don't want to say fans, because, yeah, you know what, screw it. Fans. Shout out to all you fans out there. You guys are awesome. Shout out to that fan club. One of these days, I'm going to throw you guys the biggest party. It's going to be like the gathering of the Juggalos times 10. And we're going to have live dancers. We're going to have a big band. We might even get Avenged Sevenfold, or maybe the Hanson Brothers. I heard the Backstreet Boys are back together. Might look into that. All right, you guys. Thank you for listening to End of Days Radio. I'm so addicted to this, but I finally got to get off air. I love you guys. Have a good night. This is Daniel signing out from Seattle, Washington. Home of the free, home of the brave, United States, Washington, America, planet Earth, the Milky Way. our galaxy, the known universe, sitting right here in the center, just you and me. That's right. Yeah. All right, let's get out of here. Bye.
Winter's coming.
The king has returned from the broken ruins of Babylon. This is the end of days. Yeah, that's right. You are the resistance. I'm still here. I'm scared. I hate spiders. Yeah, good night.